Hey everybody, Jangro here. Welcome to my Mastering Mechanism series. We are way overdue to talk about ore multiplication. I have a full 5 times ore multiplication system set up behind me. We're going to go through that all the way from 2x, 3x, 4x to 5x in this episode. If you're thinking this doesn't look that complicated, it's actually not. So stick around. Let's go through it. Please give me a few seconds to thank our sponsor, Apex Hosting. If you're tired of the hassle of self-hosting Minecraft servers, dealing with performance issues, or port forwarding, Apex has you covered. With one-click modpack installations, you can have incredible packs like Valhelsia 6 up and running in under 5 minutes. It's that easy. Apex takes the pain out of server setup so you can jump straight into the fun with your friends, and if things go wrong, their support is available 24/7 to keep the game going. If you do check them out, please use my link, jangro.com/apex. That supports the channel. Thank you for your support. Let's talk about ore multiplication with Mechanism. Rather than you watch me make all these machines and put them down, I thought I would set the whole thing up and we can kind of go through this like a showcase. Here's what we're doing here. These are all the stages of ore multiplication with Mechanism. We go from ore itself all the way to ingots. There's all these things in between. Some of these, on the farther left we go here, is when is 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, and 5 times. We'll go through that whole thing right here. What's cool about ore multiplication with Mechanism is that you just keep building on the previous machine. So the 2 times multiplying, which is this enrichment chamber here, is used in the next stage up. So this is 3 times right here. And the enrichment chamber, I've got another enrichment chamber up here, but this is the same thing right here. So if I put in an iron ore in this enrichment chamber, it gets doubled. This is ore doubling. So we get 2 iron dust from here. We turn eject on, goes into the smelter, which turns the dust into ingots. And here we have iron dust and ingots. And there we go. There is ore doubling. Now, also what's really cool about this is that we can put raw iron, and I'm just going to use iron as an example, but most ores can go through this process. Some modded ores like immersive engineering, you can't put through this process. However, the Mechanism ones you can, and vanilla ones you can. So we'll just focus on those. But we can put raw iron into the process as well. And Mechanism will also multiply those, which is pretty unique to mods, I think. Most mods do multiplication on the ores, but not on the raw ores. You just get less. So if we put raw iron into the enrichment chamber, we are going to get 4 ingots out of 3 ores. So it's 4 for 3 multiplication. Let's just fix this so it ejects out to the right. And everything goes into our barrel right here. Okay, so there's 2 times multiplication. This you can set up pretty much right away. The enrichment chamber and the smelter are 2 very easy machines to make. All right, let's look at tripling. So that starts here with the purification chamber. If we put iron ore into a purification chamber filled with oxygen, that's going to create 3 iron clumps. And now those 3 iron clumps go into the crusher. And from here on, it's 1-to-1. So these 3 iron clumps will make 3 dirty iron dust. 3 dirty iron dust over here in the enrichment chamber is going to make 1 dust, 1 iron dust. And then that goes into our smelter, and now we get tripling. What you usually see with ore tripling in Mechanism is the electrolytic separator, which is how we get oxygen. I've got one of those over here. I've got the oxygen coming from way over here. I've got a bunch of electrolytic separators around here. We have one from our gas burning generator setup. It's down here. So this electrolytic separator takes water and gives us hydrogen and oxygen. I've got a number of those machines around. I've got plenty of oxygen, and I'm piping it through here, and that's why we're getting it here. We could just as easily put an electrolytic separator right here in this setup somewhere, pipe water into it, and get our oxygen. There's ore tripling. Also, really easy to set up early game. So set this up as early as you can. Now, I think most people probably stop here when it comes to ore multiplication with Mechanism because these are the easy ones, and it gets a little more complicated at this point. But here is ore quadrupling, the chemical injection chamber. And if we put an iron ore in here, that turns into 4. Do I have upgrades in this machine? I do. That's why it's so fast. That will create 4 iron shards out of 1 iron ore, Then those go through the 3 times process. These iron shards get processed in the purification chamber just for a 1-to-1. So like I was saying earlier, it's pretty cool that the thing that comes out of the 4 times just goes through our old machines, but there's no multiplication at this point. They just get processed. Now, the chemical injection chamber, while this is an easy machine, it's pretty expensive. We need reinforced alloy and elite control circuits. So diamond alloys, basically, to make this. And we also need hydrogen chloride. It uses hydrogen chloride gas, which I have a hydrogen chloride quantum entangloporter. That's why there are no pipes around here. So if we pull in the gas with the bottom set to input, and I guess I don't have the entangloporter set for output on the top. Gases, top, output, eject on. There we go. Now it's filling up with hydrogen chloride. Now this quantum entangloporter, if you haven't seen my previous episode all about quantum entangloporters, these are basically virtual pipes. So I've got this quantum entangloporter configured, set up to my hydrogen chloride frequency. I'm producing hydrogen chloride somewhere else. So that's why this is so simple. The actual hydrogen chloride setup is right over here. Here's where we're creating hydrogen chloride. In the chemical infuser, it's hydrogen and chlorine, and it creates hydrogen chloride. And this is empty because I am emptying it into that tank over there. So it's not keeping anything in here in its buffers, but they are here. They're just not visible because they're just going right through here. So here's how you make hydrogen chloride, hydrogen and chlorine. Chlorine comes from this electrolytic separator with brine in it. And that creates sodium, which we don't use for anything yet. So we just dump the excess sodium, and chlorine comes out here. And that's just moving next over into this machine right here. We can see the hydrogen chloride is actually getting stored in this tank. This is a dynamic tank, by the way, holds a ton of gas or fluids. So I'm storing brine in here from my evaporation plants that I also set up in a previous episode. So here we have brine coming in here in this quantum entangloporter, and hydrogen coming in here. I'm making liberal use of quantum entangloporters so I don't have to have pipes everywhere. So right here is a quantum entangloporter that is taking out the hydrogen chloride and it's sending it over there to that tank. So this is the output. Here we have a quantum entangloporter on a hydrogen frequency. I'm getting hydrogen from over here in that setup. There's an electrolytic separator, probably the same one that I showed you for oxygen. So that's putting hydrogen into here. And right here, I've got a quantum entangloporter set to my evaporation plants. That is pulling brine into this electrolytic separator. This quantum entangloporter is getting the sodium and is pumping it into this tank right here that has sodium in it. Now the brine is coming from my evaporation plants, which are out here. And here, this evaporation plant is making brine, and it is getting sent through the brine quantum entangloporter back up into the base. I'm also making lithium. So here we have brine getting separated into chlorine. The chlorine's going into this infuser, getting infused with hydrogen to make hydrogen chloride. That is getting shared between that tank and that machine right over here with this hydrogen chloride quantum entangloporter. That fills up this slot right here, and we get 4 times processing. Finally, 5 times processing is the most complicated. The actual processing starts right here in the chemical dissolution chamber. We put iron ore in here. That gets processed into dirty iron slurry, which moves over into this chemical washer. Dirty iron slurry gets cleaned with water in the chemical washer and ends up over here as iron crystals. And it's already gone. It's been moving over there. Let's put one more in and we'll see if we can catch this happening. So there's the dirty iron slurry. That's getting turned into clean iron slurry, which is getting turned into iron crystals. And that process of going from here to here is a 5-to-1 multiplication. Now we can put in iron ore and we get a 10 for 3. So a 3.33 times multiplication. So if you've got a mod in your mod pack that multiplies ores better, like Integrated Dynamics has the squeezer. And if we look at the mechanical squeezer, for ore, it gives us 3. I don't know, this is like 3.75. And if we multiply that times 3.3, we get like 9 point something multiplication by adding in the squeezer. So here's the multiplication part of this. But in order to do this, the chemical dissolution chamber needs sulfuric acid. The washer just needs water. Now, how do we get sulfuric acid? Well, that's this step over here. The chemical infuser takes sulfur trioxide and water vapor and turns that into sulfuric acid. Water vapor we get from water through the rotary condensator, set to go from right to left. And we just pipe water in there and we get water vapor. So that's easy. The sulfur trioxide comes from mixing oxygen, which we have lots of, with sulfur dioxide, which comes from processing sulfur in a chemical oxidizer. And sulfur comes from processing coal or charcoal in a pressurized reaction chamber with oxygen and water. All right, so if we put a piece of coal in this pressurized reaction chamber, that's going to create sulfur. That sulfur gets put into the chemical oxidizer, gets turned into sulfur dioxide. And the sulfur dioxide goes through here, gets turned into trioxide, and gets turned into sulfuric acid. Now, of course, coal we have to mine, but we can also put charcoal in a PRC. And for that, we will smelt a log. And now we can get charcoal, which goes in here, gets turned into sulfur, and so on. So this part here is the gas we need for ore quintupling, and right here is where it actually happens. We'll put another one in here. So we have 19. We should get another 5, which will give us 24. So by using logs in the energized smelter to get charcoal, we can just set up a tree farm with another mod like create, and we'll have infinite charcoal for this process. Now, if you're wondering what this is down here, I've just got a chemical tank because this process here of turning coal into sulfur also creates hydrogen. And so we need to dump the hydrogen into a tank, and I have the tank set on dumping excess. So we'll always get rid of the hydrogen. If you just let the hydrogen accumulate here, and as soon as that's full, it will stop this from processing. So we need to be able to dump it out, and you can use a tank to dump out gases. And this is just about done. 24. So we got 5 times from that one iron ore. At this point, we can upgrade our pipes. Like we can upgrade these basic pipes with some advanced alloy, turn them into advanced cables. And we can also upgrade these machines with tier upgrades and with speed and energy upgrades. And it will make this process incredibly fast. We just need to make sure we've got enough power to handle the upgraded machines, which we do with our gas burning generator setup, which I set up in another earlier video in this series as well. So there's 5 times ore multiplication in a nutshell. I hope that's useful. It's actually not that hard. I was surprised the first time I went through this to see just how easy it really is. And there you go, 2, 3, 4, and 5 times ore multiplication with MEKANISM. I hope that was useful. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. I appreciate you.